I am David. I'm 36 years old. And I stood there watching my wealthy, arrogant brother drop a $500 crystal glass onto the marble floor because of 4 words my terrified 12-year-old son whispered. It was the moment I realized my entire family wasn't just toxic. They were dangerous. Before I tell you about the police cars, the screaming, and the inheritance that changed everything, I need to know one thing. Where are you guys listening from today? Let me know in the comments. It helps me feel a little less alone in this. Now, let's go back to that Saturday. If you looked at my hands, you'd know exactly what I do for a living. They're rough. They're calloused. There's usually sawdust permanently etched into the fingerprints and a few small scars from chisels and saws. I'm a carpenter. I run a small custom furniture shop out of a rented garage. It's honest work. It puts food on the table for me and my son, Leo. But to my family, to the Harpers, my hands are a disgrace. We were driving to my parents' estate for Leo's 12th birthday. Yeah, you heard that right. My parents insisted on hosting Leo's birthday at their place. Not because they love him, but because it was a convenient excuse to show off their renovated patio to their business partners. I looked in the rearview mirror. Leo was looking out the window, quiet. He's always been a quiet kid. He's got these big, soulful eyes and a talent for drawing that blows my mind. But lately, he'd been shrinking, like he was trying to take up less space in the world. You okay, bud? I asked. Leo pulled at the collar of his dress shirt. It was a little tight. I'd bought it at a thrift store because, honestly, the electric bill had been brutal that month. Do we have to go, Dad? Can't we just go get pizza? Just us. My heart broke a little. I know, Leo. I know. But Grandma and Grandpa made a big deal out of this. And Uncle Kevin will be there. Leo flinched. Just a tiny movement, but I caught it. Is Bryce going to be there? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. Bryce is my nephew, Kevin's son. He's 15, 3 years older than Leo, and about 50 pounds heavier. He's the golden grandson, the football star, the one who can do no wrong. Hey, I said, trying to sound confident. If Bryce bothers you, you tell me. Immediately. Okay. I don't care who is watching. You tell me. Leo nodded, but he didn't look convinced. We pulled up the long, winding driveway. The Harper estate is intimidating. Manicured hedges, a fountain that probably costs more than my yearly salary, and rows of luxury cars parked out front. My beat-up Ford truck looked like a stain on a silk sheet. I parked way in the back, hoping to avoid the sneers. As soon as we walked in, the atmosphere hit me. It smelled of expensive perfume and judgment. My mother, Eleanor, came floating over. She was wearing a dress that probably cost $3,000. She didn't hug me. She air-kissed near my cheek. David, she said, her eyes scanning my suit. Is that the same jacket you wore to Christmas 3 years ago? It's distinct. Hi, Mom. Happy to see you too, I said, fighting the urge to turn around and leave. Where's Dad? In the study with Kevin, discussing business. Real business, she added, a subtle jab at my woodshop. She looked down at Leo. And here's the birthday boy. Try not to touch the hors d'oeuvres tray, Leo. We hired a caterer and the presentation is everything. Not happy birthday. Just don't touch the food. I squeezed Leo's shoulder. Go find a quiet spot, bud. I'll get you a soda. The party was a nightmare. I stood in the corner, nursing a lukewarm beer, watching my family hold court. My brother, Kevin, was the center of gravity. He's the CEO of the family manufacturing company now. He's loud, charismatic, and cruel. He was laughing with a group of investors, holding a glass of champagne like a scepter. About an hour in, I realized I hadn't seen Leo for a while. I checked the patio. I checked the living room. Nothing. A pit started to form in my stomach. Then the back door slammed open. The chatter in the room didn't stop immediately. Took a second. Leo walked in. He was holding his side, walking with a limp. But that wasn't what made the room go quiet. It was his face. Under his left eye, a massive, angry purple bruise was already swelling shut. His lip was split. There was dirt all over his new thrift store shirt. I dropped my beer. It shattered, but I didn't care. I was across the room in 3 strides. Leo! I grabbed him, falling to my knees to be at his eye level. My hands were shaking. What happened? Who did this? Behind him, strolling in with a smirk on his face, was Bryce. My nephew looked pristine, not a hair out of place. He was tossing an apple up and down in his hand. "Oh, relax, Uncle Dave," Bryce said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. The investors turned. My parents froze. Kevin stepped forward, swirling his wine. "Bryce," Kevin said, his voice devoid of concern. "What happened?" Bryce shrugged. "We were just playing rough housing. Leo tripped. He's so clumsy. He needs to toughen up." I looked at Leo. He was trembling. This wasn't a trip. You don't get a perfect fist-shaped bruise from tripping on grass. "He didn't trip?" I snarled, standing up and facing my 15-year-old nephew. "You hit him. David, lower your voice." "My father, Robert," barked from across the room. He didn't ask if Leo was okay. He was worried about the scene. "Lower my voice?" Pointed at my son. "Look at his face, Dad. Look at him." Kevin chuckled. It was a dry, condescending sound. "David, stop being dramatic. Boys fight. Bryce is just high energy. He's an athlete. Leo is sensitive. It was an accident." Bryce laughed. "Yeah. Besides, I just taught him a lesson. He needed to learn his place. Mom and Dad say he's never going to be anything anyway. Just like you." The room went deadly silent. My blood turned to ice. "What did you say?" Bryce looked at his father for approval. Kevin grinned, raising his glass. "I said I taught him a lesson. My parents say I'm never wrong anyway. Better he learns now that some people run the world and some people sweep the floors." The cruelty was so casual. It was breathtaking. The investors looked uncomfortable, but nobody said a word. My mother was nervously adjusting her pearls, looking at the guests, not her injured grandson. I stepped toward Kevin. I was ready to lose everything. I was ready to go to jail. But then, I felt a small, cold hand grab my wrist. It was Leo. He tugged on my arm. The room was so quiet you could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Leo looked up at me. His one good eye was filled with tears, but his voice was surprisingly steady. He didn't look at me, though. He looked past me, straight at Kevin. "Dad, stop," Leo whispered. "I'm not stopping, Leo," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "No," Leo whispered again. He took a breath. "We have to stop," Uncle Kevin said. Leo paused. He looked terrified. "What?" I demanded gently. "What did he say?" Leo's voice was soft, but in that silence, it carried like a gunshot. "Uncle Kevin told Bryce to do it," he said. "He said if I let Bryce beat me up without crying, he would finally give you the money for Grandma's medical bills you paid. He said he owns us." Time stopped. I looked at Kevin. The smirk vanished from my brother's face. His eyes went wide. Not with guilt, with panic. And then it happened. The crystal champagne flute in Kevin's hand slipped. Smash. The sound was explosive. Glass shards skittered across the polished marble floor. Champagne foamed over his expensive Italian leather shoes. Kevin didn't move to clean it up. He just stared at Leo. "You little liar," Kevin whispered, but his voice cracked. I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and I saw it. I saw the fear. Leo wasn't lying. I didn't scream. I didn't punch him. A strange, cold calm washed over me. I turned to my son, picked him up in my arms, even though he was 12 and getting big, and I turned my back on them. "We're leaving," I said. "David, wait," my mother called out. "You can't leave. The cake. The guests." I stopped at the door. I looked back at the shattered glass, the spilled wine, and my brother's pale face. "Happy birthday, Leo," I said to the room, and I walked out. But as I strapped Leo into the truck, his eyes swelling shut, I knew one thing. This wasn't over. Kevin had made a mistake. He thought he could buy my son's pain. He thought we were weak because we were poor. He had no idea what he had just started. The drive home was silent. I didn't turn on the radio. The only sound was the hum of my tires on the asphalt and Leo's soft sniffling. Every time I hit a pothole, I winced, imagining the pain radiating through his face. We live in a small 2-bedroom apartment above my workshop. It smells like cedar and varnish, a smell I love, but one that my ex-wife used to say smelled like poverty. I got Leo onto the couch and ran to get an ice pack. As I wrapped the ice in a kitchen towel, my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. "Here, buddy," I said, gently pressing it to his cheek. Leo hissed in pain but leaned into it. "I'm sorry, Dad," he mumbled. "Sorry?" I knelt beside him. "Leo, look at me. You have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. Do you hear me?" He nodded, tears leaking out of his good eye. I wanted to help. I heard you talking to Mr. Henderson on the phone about the shop rent. I know we're behind." Uncle Kevin said. "Don't." I stopped him. "Don't ever listen to Uncle Kevin again." I sat back on my heels, looking at my son, and the weight of the last 10 years crashed down on me. You see, in the Harper family, you are either the king or the servant. There is no middle ground. Growing up, Kevin was the golden child. He was charismatic, good at sports, and ruthless in a way that made my father proud. I was the quiet one. I liked to build things. I liked to understand how things worked. My father called me soft. My mother called me unambitious. When my grandfather, Arthur Harper, was alive, things were different. He started the company Harper Industries as a simple carpentry business. He loved that I worked with my hands. He used to tell me, "David, the soul of this family is in the wood, not the boardroom." But Grandpa Arthur died 5 years ago, and when he died, the soul of the family died with him. The will was read, or at least the version of the will my parents and their lawyer presented. Kevin got the company. Kevin got the estate. I got a small stipend that barely covered rent and a pat on the back. David isn't cut out for business, my father had told the executors. We're protecting him from himself. I took it. I was grieving. I was going through a messy divorce at the time. My wife couldn't handle the financial stress and left when Leo was 7. I didn't have the fight in me, so I built my own life. I built my shop. I scraped by. But Kevin couldn't just win. He had to make sure I lost. He would hire me for small contracting jobs at the estate, then dispute the invoice. He would forget to invite Leo to family trips. And now this. "Leo," I said softly, "I need you to tell me exactly what happened, not the short version. Everything." Leo took a deep breath. "I was by the old boat dock. I was looking at the turtles. Bryce came down with 2 of his friends. My stomach tightened. 3 against 1. Bryce said I was trespassing. He said the dock belongs to the future CEO, which is him. I tried to walk away, Dad. I swear. But they blocked me." Leo paused, his voice trembling. "Then Uncle Kevin came down." "Kevin was there?" I felt a surge of nausea. "Yeah, he was smoking a cigar. He saw Bryce push me. I thought he would stop it. I yelled, 'Uncle Kevin.' But he just leaned against the railing." Leo looked at me, his eyes wide with a trauma no child should have. "He told Bryce, 'Go ahead, son. Teach him how the real world works. The strong take, the weak bleed.' And then he looked at me and said the thing about the debt. He said, 'Take it like a man, Leo, and maybe I'll throw your loser dad a bone.'" I stood up. I walked to the kitchen sink and gripped the edge until my knuckles turned white. It wasn't bullying. It was a sanctioned assault. It was training. Kevin was training his son to be a monster, using my son as the punching bag. "Dad." I turned back. "Yeah, bud. There's something else." Leo reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small, crumpled piece of paper. When Bryce hit me, he dropped his phone. He didn't notice. I picked it up when I fell. I was scared he'd see it, so I hid it. I stared at the sleek iPhone in Leo's hand. "You have Bryce's phone?" "It's locked," Leo said. "But the notifications, they kept popping up." I took the phone. The screen was cracked slightly from the fall. I tapped it. There was a notification from a group chat named Kings of Harper. The preview message read, "Dad says make sure the bruise shows. We need to provoke David into doing something stupid before the audit next week." The audit. My blood ran cold. I knew enough about business to know that audits were stressful. But why would they need to provoke me? What did I have to do with an audit at Harper Industries? I hadn't been part of the company for 5 years. I sat down at the kitchen table, my mind racing. Why me? Why now? Then I remembered something. A conversation I had overheard a week ago when I was dropping off a custom chair for my mother. I was in the hallway. The study door was ajar. My father was yelling, "The trust fund, Kevin. The clause in the grandfather's trust." Kevin's voice was lower, frantic. "I can't access it unless David signs off, or unless David is deemed unfit." Unfit. The word hung in my memory. If I reacted violently, if I punched Kevin, if I caused a scene and got arrested, they could paint me as unstable, violent, unfit to manage. What? I didn't manage anything. Unless there was something in grandfather's will I didn't know about. I looked at the phone. Then I looked at Leo. "Leo," I said, my voice steady. "You are very brave. You have no idea how brave you are. Are you mad I took the phone?" "No," I said. "I'm glad. Because this phone is going to save us." I stood up and grabbed my keys. "Get your shoes on, Leo. We're going out." "Where?" "To the police." "No," I said. "The police is for later. Right now, we need to go to the one person in this town who hates my father as much as I do." "Who?" "Mr. Henderson. Arthur Harper's old personal lawyer. The man my father fired the day after the funeral. If there was a secret, Henderson would know. And if there was a war coming, I needed ammunition." I looked at the bruise on my son's face one last time. A fire ignited in my chest. It wasn't the hot, flashy anger of before. It was a cold, slow-burning furnace. "They want a reaction," I whispered to myself. "I'll give them a war." Mr. Henderson's office was on the wrong side of town. It was a small brick building sandwiched between a laundromat and a vape shop. The sign outside said Henderson and Associates, but the Associates part had faded away years ago. It was 8 p.m. on a Saturday. I prayed he was there. I banged on the door. "Mr. Henderson, it's David Harper." A moment later, the blinds twitched. Then the locks turned, 3 of them. The door opened. Mr. Henderson looked older than I remembered. His suit was rumpled, and he smelled faintly of scotch and old paper. But his eyes were sharp. "David," he said, blinking. He looked down at Leo, and his expression hardened immediately. "My God, what happened to the boy?" "The Harpers happened," I said. "Can we come in?" He ushered us into his cluttered office. Stacks of files were everywhere. It was chaos, but it felt safer than the mansion ever did. I sat Leo down with a comic book in the waiting area and went into the inner office with Henderson. I put Bryce's phone on the desk. "My nephew hit my son. My brother ordered it. And I think they're trying to goad me into an assault charge so they can prove I'm unfit." Henderson sighed, sinking into his leather chair. It groaned under his weight. "Unfit. That's the magic word, isn't it?" "What is going on, Elias?" I asked, using his first name. "I heard them talking about a trust, about needing me to sign off. I thought I was written out of the will." Henderson let out a bitter laugh. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a thick manila envelope. "You were told you were written out by your father's lawyers. But the document they showed you was a draft." My heart hammered against my ribs. "A draft?" "Arthur," Henderson said, his voice full of reverence, "didn't trust your father, and he certainly didn't trust Kevin. He knew Kevin was hollow, greedy." Henderson opened the envelope. He slid a document across the desk. It was yellowed with age. "Your grandfather created a generation-skipping trust. He bypassed your father. He left the controlling interest of Harper Industries, 51% of the voting stock, to the grandchild who demonstrated the craft and character of the founder." I stared at the paper. "What does that mean?" It means, Henderson tapped the page, that the shares are held in a dormant trust until the youngest grandchild turns 12. At that point, the executor, me, is supposed to evaluate the heirs. Leo turned 12 today, I whispered. Exactly, Henderson said. And the trust explicitly states that if the primary heir, you, David, is deemed competent and morally sound, the shares transfer to you. If you are deemed unfit, criminal record, financial instability, history of violence, the shares revert to the next in line. Kevin, I realized. Kevin needs you to fail, Henderson said grimly. He's been bleeding the company dry, David. I've seen the public filings. He's leveraged everything. He needs those shares to use as collateral for a massive loan to cover his debts. If he doesn't get full control by the end of the month, the banks will call in the loans. He'll be ruined. The puzzle pieces slammed together. The snide comments, the refusal to pay me for work, the constant belittling, and now the physical assault on my son. They needed me to snap. They needed a police report with my name on it as the aggressor. They used a 12-year-old boy as bait, I said, my voice trembling. They beat my son to steal a company. They are desperate men, Henderson said. And desperate men are dangerous. What do? I asked. Do I sue them? We could, Henderson said. But civil court takes years. Kevin will bury you in legal fees before you ever see a courtroom. He has the company checkbook. You have. He looked at my worn jacket. I have nothing, I finished. No, Henderson smiled, a shark-like grin I hadn't seen in years. You have the truth. And you have the one thing Kevin fears most, public humiliation. The 50th anniversary gala is next Friday. Isn't it? Yeah. They want me to be there to show family unity. Perfect, Henderson said. We don't sue them in the dark. We expose them in the light. But we need more than just this phone. We need undeniable proof. That bruise is evidence of assault, but not of conspiracy. I thought for a second. The dock. Leo said it happened at the old boat dock. So, Grandpa Arthur, I said, a memory surfacing. He was paranoid about security. He installed hardwired cameras at the dockhouse to watch the boats. He put the server in the old maintenance shed. Do you think they still work? Kevin never goes to the maintenance shed. He hates getting his shoes dirty. If the power is still on. Go, Henderson said. Tonight. Get that footage. I grabbed Bryce's phone. I'm taking this too. Even locked its leverage. I gathered Leo. We drove out to the industrial side of the estate. I parked the truck a mile away, in the tall grass off the county road. Leo, stay here. Lock the doors. Call 911 if you see anyone but me. Dad. I'm scared, Leo whispered. I know. I am too. But we're almost done. I slipped into the night. I knew this property better than anyone. I spent my childhood exploring every inch of these woods while Kevin was inside playing video games. I moved through the shadows, avoiding the floodlights of the main house. I could see the silhouette of the mansion on the hill. Lights were blazing. They were probably still partying, drinking champagne, laughing about how they handled David. I reached the old maintenance shed. It was overgrown with vines. The lock was rusted, but I had my tools. I picked it in 10 seconds. Inside, it smelled of mildew and oil. I turned on my flashlight, shielding the beam with my hand. There, in the corner, was the old server rack. The lights were blinking green. Thank you, Grandpa, I whispered. I hooked up my laptop. The system was ancient, but I remembered the password. Arthur 1950. I scrolled through the timestamps. Today's date. 4:30 p.m. Camera 4. Boat dock. I clicked play. The grainy black and white footage flickered to life. I saw Leo walking by the water, looking at turtles. I saw Bryce and his two goons surround him. I saw the shove. And then, I saw Kevin walk into the frame. The camera had audio. It was crackly but audible. Hit him, Bryce. Kevin's voice came through the speakers. Make it Mark. We need a photo. I don't want to get in trouble, Bryce whined. You won't, Kevin said. I'll buy you that dirt bike. Just do it. Consider it an investment in your inheritance. Then the punch. Leo falling. The kick to the ribs. I watched my brother stand there, lighting a cigar, watching his own nephew writhe in pain on the wood planks. He didn't look away. He smiled. I downloaded the file. Then I copied it to a thumb drive. Then I emailed it to Henderson. Triple backup. I was about to shut the laptop when I heard a sound outside. Gravel crunching. I killed the flashlight. I know you're in there, David. It wasn't Kevin. It was a woman's voice. I froze. Come out. I'm not going to call the security guards. I stepped to the door, a screwdriver in my hand, ready to fight. I pushed the door open. Standing there, in a silk evening gown, shivering in the night air, was Rachel, Kevin's wife. She looked terrified. Her mascara was running. Rachel. I lowered the screwdriver. He's crazy, David, she whispered, hugging her arms. Kevin. He's out of control. I know, I said. I have proof. I know you do, she said. I saw you sneak down here. I followed you. Are you going to tell him? Rachel stepped closer. I saw a bruise on her upper arm, hastily covered with makeup. He hit me tonight, she said, her voice trembling, because I told him he went too far with Leo. He threw a wine bottle at me. She looked me in the eye. I want out, David. I want a divorce. But if I leave now, he'll take the kids. He'll destroy me. He controls all the money. What do you want? I asked. I want him destroyed, she hissed. I want him left with nothing. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. This is the bank schedule. He's moving the offshore funds on Friday during the gala. He thinks everyone will be distracted. She handed it to me. Burn him to the ground, David. For Leo. And for me. She turned and ran back toward the house, disappearing into the dark. I stood there, holding the thumb drive in one hand and the bank documents in the other. I wasn't just a carpenter anymore. I was the executioner. The next 3 days were a blur of strategy and secrecy. I kept Leo out of school. We stayed at the shop, sleeping on the pull-out couch in the office. I didn't want us anywhere near the apartment if Kevin decided to send his associates to pay a visit. Henderson was working overtime. He was drafting documents, verifying the video footage, and preparing the legal nukes we were about to drop. The video is admissible, Henderson told me on Tuesday morning. We were eating donuts in his office. It clearly shows intent, conspiracy, and child abuse. We have him on criminal charges. Criminal charges take time, I said. He needs to lose the company first. If he still has power, he can bribe his way out of a lot. Agreed, Henderson nodded. That's why the gala is the key. The board of directors will be there. The major shareholders. The press. The press. I took the liberty of inviting a few old friends from the City Chronicle, Henderson winked. Told them there might be a corporate restructuring announcement. I looked at the bank schedule Rachel had given me. What about this? The offshore transfer. This, Henderson tapped the paper, is embezzlement. He's trying to drain the liquidity before the audit. If we catch him mid-transfer, it's federal prison time, not just assault charges. We're talking 10 to 15 years. I felt a heavy weight in my chest. This was my brother. We used to build forts together. We used to ride bikes. You're hesitating, Henderson observed. He's my brother, I admitted. He's not the boy you grew up with, David. That boy is gone. The man who ordered a hit on your son? That's a stranger. And that stranger will not stop until you are destitute and Leo is broken. I looked at Leo, who was sketching in the corner. His eye was turning a grotesque shade of yellow and green. He flinched every time a car backfired outside. You're right, I said. Let's finish it. Wednesday came. My phone rang. It was my mother. David, she said. Her voice was syrupy sweet. How is Leo? He's in pain, Mom. Not that you care. Oh, stop it. Listen, your father and I have been thinking. We want to make this right. We want to pay for Leo's college fund. Full ride. Harvard, Yale, wherever he wants. What's the catch? I asked, putting the phone on speaker so Henderson could hear. No catch. We want family unity. We want you at the gala on Friday. Kevin wants to publicly apologize to you. Handshake on stage. Let bygones be bygones. Henderson rolled his eyes and made a slitting throat motion. An apology? I asked. Does he admit he ordered the hit? David, really? She sighed. Don't ruin this. Just come to the gala. Sign a little NDA, standard procedure for the gift, and the check is yours. $50,000 for you, plus the college fund. They were trying to buy my silence. 50 grand. To them, it was pocket change. To me, it was life-changing money. Could pay off my debts, get me a new truck, get us a real apartment. For a second, I was tempted. Just take the money and run. Go to another state. Start over. But then I remembered the video. The strong take, the weak bleed. If I took the money, I was teaching Leo that his pain had a price tag. That it was okay to be abused as long as the check cleared. I'll be there, I said. But I'm not signing anything until I hear the apology. Wonderful, she chirped. Wear something nice, David. Please. She hung up. She thinks she bought you, Henderson said. She bought herself a front row seat to the funeral of her reputation, I said. Thursday night, the night before the gala. Couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark shop, running my hand over a slab of walnut I was turning into a table. The wood was smooth, honest. It didn't lie. Leo walked in. He was wearing his pajamas. Dad. Hey, bud. Can't sleep. Is it going to be scary tomorrow? I picked him up and sat him on the workbench. It might be loud. People might yell. But you don't have to say a word. You just stand by me. Can you do that? Will Bryce be there? Yes. I'm scared of him. I know, I said. But after tomorrow, Bryce will never hurt you again. Promise. I swear on Grandpa's life. Leo hugged me. He smelled like soap and childhood innocence. I held him tight, feeling the smallness of his frame. Dad. Yeah. I drew something for you. He handed me his sketchbook. It was a drawing of me, but I wasn't just a carpenter. I was standing in front of a giant dragon. The dragon had Kevin's face, and in the drawing I was holding a shield. The shield was made of wood, and on the shield he had written, my dad. I stared at that drawing. Tears pricked my eyes. I wasn't doing this for the money. I wasn't doing it for the company. I was doing it so that my son would always see me like this. Not as the victim, not as the loser brother, but as the man who stood between him and the dragon. It's perfect, Leo, I choked out. Are we going to win? He asked. I closed the book. I looked at the dark shadows of the shop. We're not just going to win, Leo, I said. We're going to take back the kingdom. The Harper Industries 50th anniversary gala was held at the Grand Hotel Ballroom. It was an ocean of tuxedos, glittering gowns, and fake smiles. I wore my cheap suit. I didn't care anymore. Leo was beside me, wearing a new blazer I had bought with the last of my savings. He wore sunglasses to hide the bruise at my request. Not to hide the shame, but to save the reveal for the right moment. When we walked in, the tension was palpable. Kevin was on the stage finishing a speech. He looked like a king. And that is why Harper Industries is more than a company. It is a family, Kevin boomed into the microphone. We stand together. We support each other. Applause rippled through the room. My parents were in the front row, clapping, beaming. Rachel sat beside them, looking pale, her eyes darting around the room until she locked onto mine. She gave a microscopic nod. And now, Kevin said, his smile tight, I'd like to invite my brother, David, to the stage. We've had our misunderstandings. But tonight we move forward. This was it. The public humiliation masked as reconciliation. He wanted me to kiss the ring. I squeezed Leo's hand. Stay here with Mr. Henderson. Henderson was standing by the sound booth, not the bar. That was part of the plan. I walked up the stairs to the stage. The spotlight blinded me. I felt the heat of 1,000 eyes. Kevin extended his hand. He pulled me in for a bro hug. Smile, he hissed in my ear. Take the check. sign the NDA backstage, and get the hell out of my life. I pulled back. I looked at the microphone. Kevin, I said, loud enough for the mic to catch it. I don't want your money. The room went quiet. A few nervous chuckles. Excuse me? Kevin laughed, trying to play it off. David is a bit overwhelmed. I don't want the 50,000, I said, my voice steady, projecting to the back of the room. And I don't want the college fund. My father stood up. David, sit down. I ignored him. I looked at the audience. My brother talks about family, I said. He talks about legacy. But I think you all deserve to see what the Harper legacy actually looks like. I signaled to Henderson. Henderson nodded to the tech guy he had bribed earlier. The giant screen behind us, which was displaying the company logo, flickered. What are you doing? Kevin snapped. He reached for the mic, but I shoved him back. Watch, I commanded. The video from the boat dock began to play. It was magnified on the 20-foot screen. The image was grainy but unmistakable. The gasp from the audience sucked the air out of the room. They watched Bryce and his friends corner Leo. They watched the shove. Then the audio kicked in. Kevin's voice, amplified through the ballroom speakers, was deafening. Hit him, Bryce. Make it mark. Consider it an investment in your inheritance. The punch landed. The sound of Leo crying out echoed in the ballroom. On screen, Kevin lit his cigar, smiling. In the ballroom, real-life Kevin was frozen. He looked like a ghost. My mother screamed, "Turn it off! Turn it off!" But the video kept playing. Played the part where Kevin laughed. I turned to the audience. That, I pointed to the screen, is the CEO of Harper Industries. A man who orders a hit on a 12-year-old boy to secure a loan. The crowd was in an uproar. Phones were out. People were recording. The kings of Harper were crumbling in real time. "You're finished?" Kevin screamed, lunging at me. "I'll kill you." Security guards, the ones Henderson had hired, not the hotel staff, intercepted him. They held him back. "I'm not finished, Kevin," I said. "I'm just starting." I pulled the yellow document from my inside pocket. "This," I held it up, "is the original last will and testament of Arthur Harper. The one my parents hid. The one my brother tried to beat out of me." I looked at the board of directors sitting at table 1. They looked horrified. "Mr. Henderson?" I called out. Henderson stepped into the spotlight, holding a microphone. As executor of the Arthur Harper Trust, Henderson's voice was like gravel. "I hereby invoke the competency clause. Due to the demonstrated criminal conduct and moral turpitude of Kevin Harper, his rights to the voting shares are immediately revoked." "You can't do that," my father shouted, his face purple. "I am the chairman." "Not anymore, Robert," Henderson said. "The shares transfer to the next competent heir. Effective immediately, the majority shareholder of Harper Industries is David Harper." The silence that followed was heavy. I looked at Kevin. He was sagging in the grip of the security guards. "You stole my company," Kevin spat. "No," I said, stepping closer to him. "You lost it. You lost it the moment you decided my son was expendable." Then Rachel stood up. She walked onto the stage. She didn't look at Kevin. She looked at the microphone. "I have also just forwarded evidence to the FBI and the SEC regarding the embezzlement of $3 million from the pension fund," she said, her voice shaking but clear. "Kevin was planning to move the money to the Caymans tonight." The room erupted. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was a federal crime. Kevin looked at his wife. "Rachel? You?" "I'm filing for divorce, Kevin," she said. "And I'm taking the kids. You're never going to touch them again." Sirens began to wail in the distance. Real police. I walked over to the edge of the stage. Leo was standing there, looking up at me. He took off his sunglasses. The bruise was ugly, vivid under the stage lights. I reached down and pulled him up onto the stage with me. "This is the future of this family," I said to the crowd, holding Leo's hand. "We don't hit, we don't lie, and we don't steal." I looked at my parents. They were slumped in their chairs, looking old and defeated. They had bet on the wrong son. "The party is over," I said into the mic. "Please go home." I dropped the microphone. Thud. It was a satisfying sound, almost as loud as the glass breaking. But this time, it was the sound of victory. The next hour was a chaotic ballet of justice. I watched from the balcony as the police handcuffed Kevin. He was crying, actually crying. Not tears of remorse, but tears of a spoiled child who finally got told no. "Don't let them take me," he screamed at my father. "Dad, do something." But Robert Harper could do nothing. He was busy trying to explain to a federal agent why his signature was on some of the fraudulent documents Rachel had uncovered. Rachel was sitting with the police, giving a statement. She looked exhausted but free. I walked out to the parking lot. The cool night air felt amazing. Leo was sitting on the tailgate of my truck, swinging his legs. Henderson was standing next to him, smoking a celebratory cigar. "You did good, kid," Henderson said to me. "Your grandfather would be proud." "Is it really over?" I asked. "The criminal trial will take months," Henderson said. "The custody battle for Rachel's kids will be messy. But the company is yours, David. The board is already drafting a resolution to install you as interim CEO. I don't know how to run a multinational corporation," I admitted. "You know would," Henderson said. "And you know people. You hire smart people to do the math. You just be the moral compass. That's what this company has been missing for 5 years." My parents came out of the hotel. They saw me. For a moment I thought they would yell, but they just stopped. They looked small. My mother walked over. She looked at Leo's bruise, then at me. "David," she said, her voice trembling. We didn't know he would go that far. You have to believe us." "You knew enough," I said. "You knew he was hurting him, and you watched." "We're family," my father said. "You can't let your brother go to prison. You have the power now. You can drop the charges." I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "Family?" I asked. "Family isn't blood, Dad. Family is trust. And you broke that trust a long time ago." I opened the truck door. "You're not welcome in my life anymore," I said. "Or Leo's. If you come near my shop or my son, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. I have the best lawyer in town." I nodded at Henderson. Henderson tipped his non-existent hat. "David, please," my mother sobbed. "We have no one else." "You have each other," I said. "And you have your money. That's what you always wanted, right?" I got in the truck and started the engine. As we drove away, leaving the lights of the Grand Hotel behind us, Leo leaned his head on my shoulder. "Dad." "Yeah, bud. Is it true? Do you own the company now?" "It looks that way." "Does that mean we can get a new heater for the shop? The old one makes that scary noise." I chuckled, tears streaming down my face. "Yeah, Leo, we can get a new heater. We can get a whole new shop. We can get whatever we need." I looked at him. The bruise was still there, but his eyes were different. The fear was gone. "You saved us, Leo," I said. "No," he said, closing his eyes. "You did." We drove into the night, toward a future that was finally truly ours. It has been exactly 365 days since the glass shattered. I am standing in the middle of the factory floor at Harper Industries. Well, actually, we rebranded. It's called Founders Woodworks now. I wanted a name that honored the beginning, not the ego. The smell here is different than it used to be. Under Kevin's reign, the factory smelled like fear and industrial cleaner. Now it smells like raw pine, sawdust, and coffee. I adjusted my tie. I still hate wearing ties, but Henderson insists that as the CEO, I have to look the part at least twice a week. "David," a voice called out. I turned to see Sarah. She wasn't just my shop manager anymore. She was the vice president of operations. And, if I'm being honest with you guys, she's become a lot more than that to me personally, but we're taking it slow. For Leo's sake. "The Q4 reports are in," Sarah said, handing me a tablet. "Production is up 40%. And employee retention? We haven't lost a single worker since the promotion cycle last month. I looked at the numbers. They were staggering. It turns out, I smiled, that when you pay people a living salary and treat them like human beings instead of machinery, they actually want to work for you. Who knew? Sarah laughed. Oh, and Mr. Henderson is in your office. He says it's urgent. My stomach tightened. Urgent usually meant news about them. I walked into my office, which was actually Kevin's old office, stripped of the pretentious gold fixtures and the minibar. Henderson was sitting on the sofa, looking grim. What is it, Elias? I asked, sitting on the edge of the desk. The verdict is in, Henderson said. He didn't have to specify which trial. For the past year, the State versus Kevin Harper trial had been the biggest show in town. The evidence Rachel provided, combined with the video from the doc, had been a nail in his coffin. And, guilty on all counts, Henderson said. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit assault. The judge didn't go easy. He got 12 years in federal prison. No parole for at least 10. 12 years. I looked out the window. My brother, the golden child, would be 51 years old when he saw freedom again. What about the custody arrangement? I asked. Finalized this morning, Henderson replied. Rachel gets full legal and physical custody. Kevin has lost all parental rights. The judge cited the ongoing danger he poses to the children's psychological well-being. Rachel is moving the kids to Oregon next week. She wants a fresh start. I felt a wave of relief crash over me. Bryce was getting professional help. Away from Kevin's poison, there was hope for him. He was just a kid, after all. A weapon forged by his father, but weapons can be dismantled. And my parents? I asked the question I dreaded most. Henderson sighed. That's the other news. The bank foreclosed on the estate yesterday. The auction is set for next month. They are moving into a 2-bedroom rental on the south side. Their assets have been frozen to pay back the shareholders. The king and queen had lost their castle. They sent you this? Henderson slid a thick envelope across the desk. It had my name scrawled on it in my mother's elegant, cursive handwriting. The same handwriting that used to sign my birthday cards with generic messages like, "Keep up the good work." I stared at the envelope. Do you want me to shred it? Henderson asked. No, I said, picking it up. I need to read it. I need to know if they finally understand. I waited until I got home to open it. We don't live in the shop anymore. We bought a modest house with a big backyard, right near the lake. It has a real kitchen, a room for Leo with a skylight for his painting, and a porch where I can drink my coffee in peace. Leo was in the living room, teaching 2 neighborhood kids how to shade a sphere. He looked different, taller. The bruise was a distant memory, replaced by a confident smile. He wasn't the shrinking Violet anymore. He was the son of the CEO, yes, but more importantly, he was Leo. He was safe. Hey, Dad, he called out. We're making pizza later, right? You bet, I said, kissing the top of his head. I just have to handle some paperwork. I went to my bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. I tore open the envelope. I expected an apology. I expected remorse. I expected a plea for forgiveness. My dearest David, we are writing to you from a place of deep despair. The situation is untenable. Your father's heart condition is worsening with the stress. We have been cast out, David, humiliated by the very people we employed. We know you are angry about the misunderstanding with Kevin. But surely you cannot let your own parents live in squalor while you sit in your brother's chair. We are family. We made you who you are. We are asking, no, we are demanding that you set up a monthly stipend for us. It is the least you can do after the role you played in destroying the Harper legacy. We also expect you to cover the legal fees for Kevin's appeal. He is your brother. You owe him that much. Don't let the power go to your head. Remember where you came from. Love, Mom and Dad. I read the letter twice. They didn't apologize. They didn't ask about Leo. They didn't mention the bruise, the trauma, or the crime. They called it a misunderstanding. They blamed me for destroying the legacy. They demanded money. They hadn't changed. They hadn't learned. They were just vampires who had run out of blood, looking for the nearest vein to tap. A year ago, this letter would have crushed me. It would have made me feel guilty. It would have made me question my worth. But today, I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a quiet, absolute clarity. I walked out to the backyard. I have a fire pit there. I lit a match. I held the letter over the flame. I watched the edges curl and blacken. I watched the words family and legacy turn to ash. Dad. Leo was standing at the back door. What are you burning? Just some trash. Bud? I said, dropping the burning paper into the pit. Just clearing out the last of the clutter. Was it from them? Leo asked. He's sharp. He always knows. Yeah, I admitted. Did they say sorry? I looked at my son. I could lie to him. I could tell him they loved us. I could try to preserve some fantasy of having grandparents. But our new life was built on truth. No, Leo, they didn't. Leo walked over and stood next to me. He watched the last sparks die out. It's okay, Leo said, slipping his hand into mine. We don't need them. We have Sarah. We have Mr. Henderson. We have each other. He looked up at me. That's enough, isn't it? I squeezed his hand. Yeah, Leo, it's more than enough. That weekend, we held the Founders' Day celebration at the company. It used to be a black-tie gala where the rich patted themselves on the back. I changed it. Now it was a barbecue for the employees and their families. Bouncy castles for the kids. Burgers on the grill. Music. Laughter. I stood by the grill, flipping burgers, wearing an apron that said "The Boss." Rachel came. She looked 10 years younger. She introduced me to her lawyer, a nice woman who had helped her secure the college fund for her kids before Kevin's assets were seized. Thank you, David, Rachel said, hugging me, for saving us. You saved yourself, Rachel, I said. Then I saw him, a man in a suit, standing at the edge of the park. It was my father's old chief of staff. He looked hesitant. I walked over. Can I help you, George? David. Mr. Harper, he stammered. Your father sent me. He wanted to know if you got the letter. I got it, I said. And? Is there a response? I looked at the happy families eating, the kids playing tag, the vibrant life of a company that was finally breathing. Tell them, I said, my voice low and steady, that the bank of David Harper is closed. Tell them that my inheritance wasn't the money. It was the lesson they taught me about what not to be. Tell them I wish them well, but I never want to hear from them again. George nodded. He looked relieved, actually. I'll tell them. Good luck, David. I don't need luck, I said, watching Leo score a goal in a soccer game with the warehouse manager's kids. I have everything I need. The sun is setting over the lake now. It's painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, colors that remind me, strangely, of that bruise. But the memory doesn't hurt anymore. It's just a scar. And scars are proof that you survived. I'm sitting on the porch. Leo is inside, asleep. He starts high school next week. He's nervous, but not the paralyzing kind of fear he used to have. He knows that no matter what happens in those hallways, he has a fortress to come home to. I've been thinking a lot about the word legacy. My father thought legacy was a name on a building. Kevin thought legacy was a bank account balance and the fear you could instill in others. They spent their whole lives trying to build a monument to themselves, stacking stone upon stone, crushing anyone who got in the way. And in the end, took one moment of truth to knock it all down. It's funny. We act like family is this sacred, unbreakable bond. We are told that blood is thicker than water. But what happens when the blood is toxic? What happens when the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones sharpening the knife? I learned the hard way that you have to choose your family. Real family isn't about DNA. It's not about whose last name you share. Real family is the person who brings you ice when you're hurting. Real family is the lawyer who risks his career to help a broke carpenter. Real family is the woman who helps you rebuild your confidence piece by piece. Real family is the son who stands up to a giant to save his father. I've had to organize a funeral this year, not a physical one. My parents are still alive, miserable in their small apartment, blaming the world for their downfall. No, I held a funeral for the idea of them. I mourned the parents I wished I had, and I buried the hope that they would ever change. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than the poverty. Harder than the divorce. But on the other side of that grief, there was freedom. I run a multi-million-dollar company now. I sign checks that make my head spin. But every Saturday, I still go down to the shop floor. I pick up a chisel. I smell the wood. I make something with my hands. Because that's who I am. I'm David. I'm a builder. And the most important thing I'm building isn't furniture. It isn't a stock portfolio. It's a life where my son never has to wonder if he is loved. It's a life where strength isn't measured by how hard you can hit, but by how kind you can be. I look at the drawing Leo made me, the one of me with the shield. I had it framed. It hangs in the boardroom right where Kevin's portrait used to be. Every time the executives come in for a meeting, they have to look at it. They have to look at a crayon drawing of a carpenter protecting his son. It reminds us of what matters. If you are listening to this and you are feeling small, if you are trapped in a family that makes you feel like you are nothing, if you are holding on to a secret that is eating you alive, I want you to know something. You are not the servant. You are not the scapegoat. You are the architect of your own life. It is terrifying to drop the glass. It is terrifying to shatter the silence. You think the world will end if you speak up. But let me tell you from the other side, the world doesn't end. The lie ends. And when the lie ends, the truth can finally begin. Don't let them win. Don't let them buy your pain. Don't let them teach you that you are weak. Stand up. Speak out. And if you have to, walk away and never look back. Build your own table. Build your own house. Build your own family. Because you deserve to be safe. You deserve to be happy. And you are worth fighting for. This is David signing off. But before I go, I have one last favor to ask. Thank you for being patient and walking this road with me. You guys are amazing. Please help me by liking this video and commenting the number 1 below, so I know you stuck with me until the very end. Your support is the biggest motivation for me to keep sharing.